What's going on, y'all? Welcome to 8 Cubes. I'm KMBest. He's Lambie Series. We're going to start things off talking about our differing experiences in Deadpool's Diner. Lambie's going to kick us off talking about his experience because he set himself a challenge, a fully free-to-play attempt at getting the Cassandra Nova Pandart variant. Let's see how that's going. Lambie, where are you at in your challenge?
Okay, so initially I thought I wanted to just, like I mentioned in KM's previous video, that I wanted to just spend like 8,000 gold and go ham, right? I decided to change my mind. I'm
Sure.
not sure why. Maybe because other people were already spending gold. So I decided, okay, maybe I don't want to spend gold. So I decided to do a completely free-to-play challenge just for fun. I'm in no real rush to get the Cassandra Nova variant. I might regret this. The card is very strong, by the way. But so what I did was I went with this very super disciplined approach, like a poker approach, right? So let me explain what I did. I did this thing whereby I was only gonna move up to the next table, right? Where it's like pizza table, hot dog table, or whatever, right? I was only gonna move up after I have 10 times of the minimum requirement amount to move up. So that's like a poker thing, because when you play poker, you buy in about like 100 times the big blind. So this one I'm just doing 10 times. But I realized one thing, this super rational approach works. I think I was never gonna go bust. At no point in my run on my stream I was ever gonna go bust. But also at no point was I really gonna get that 5 million anytime soon.
Yeah.
So like I realized it's super slow. But it's logical, but it's really super slow. And I honestly think it's probably not the best approach for this event, because I think you need a certain amount of YOLO brain for this event to make it worth your while. Right? Honestly, as much as I'm being very disciplined here, I think it probably is not correct. It's a bit too little YOLO, and I think it's a bit weird that I'm doing it, but like for fun. So I don't know about you guys, but like if you guys have done the F2P challenge as well, and maybe you are enjoying the grind as you see your bubs increase slowly, maybe you like that kind of thing. But I'm here to say that, like, honestly, if you just like take my super disciplined approach, you're really gonna take really long to get the Cassandra Nova. So I might change it up a bit for myself as well.
Yeah, so my thought process is maybe you play a table down or two, but you stay near the top of
Mm,
your range, I think. And because of that, that's like a very reasonable approach to like how the metagame actually, or not how Deadpool's Diner actually sort of incentivizes you to do it. But one thing that I really wanted to hit on is if you play super disciplined, you don't get to take advantage of your bub regeneration. So if you're
true.
always building up a big stack, you don't get to take advantage of something that's going to be really good for you over the course of the time that you have, right?
Mm,
You are almost certainly going to be able to do something ridiculous with your bub regeneration at some point. And like that's actually the most important thing is getting to the various bub regeneration caps because they
100%.
each allow you to be stupid, right? Because like I regenerate 30 million bubs right now. And that means that basically what happens is I can just go YOLO, 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 YOLO. If I lose my entire stack, okay, I'll come back and I'll start playing at like relatively high tables with 30 million in 8 hours. It'll be fine, right? And because this event is 14 days long, that kind of behavior is incentivized because there's so much ability for your bubs to regenerate. So I think that, yes, on the whole, I would say I would not recommend your 10x strategy.
Yeah, don't. Yeah, I don't recommend it. Like the fact is, I also decided to tell myself to never go bust even once. Like I treated
Mm-hmm.
this like tournament poker for the fun of it, but it's at the detriment of like being extremely slow. Like
Yeah.
honestly, after like few hours of grinding, I was up like what, a few thousand bubs, by the way. That's crazy slow compared to everyone else, because the fact is, like KM said, the bub regen is something that you should take advantage of. So if you really want to pose yourself a challenge, do what I do, but I advise you not to, because it's a lot of time.
So let's talk about what I did, which is spend $100 to not have to care about this mode at all. My thought process was I am a content creator. The thing that I need on day one is Cassandra Nova. I don't care about the rest of this stuff. I could try to free to play my way through this mode. It would result in me not having this card maybe on, maybe it would take a couple hours or whatever for me to make that happen. That just wasn't worth it to me. One of the very frustrating things about Cassandra Nova's release to me was that there was no other way to get her other than the diner. I have
True.
60,000 collector's tokens. I would have happily just spent those. That's really frustrating to me that I wasn't able to do that. I really just wanted the card so I could make content with it. It turns out this was actually kind of a bad idea because by the time I released my video on Cassandra Nova, about 500 people in the entire world had her. So my video wasn't relevant to anybody. It wasn't helping anybody. And it was just like only people who had her were people like me who were like spending money on the mode and trying to get her as fast as possible. And it turns out she is very, very good. We'll get to that in a little bit. But yeah, no, I think I also took a suboptimal route too. That was like a 10 out of 10 on of my last 10 videos lowest views. Like it didn't do what I wanted it to do. But that is sort of where I was at. I was just like, I don't want to think about this at all. I don't want to have to know anything about bubs or bub regeneration caps. I want the card, and then we'll play the mode later. And I think that sort of highlights one of the issues with this mode, because it's really easy to call this mode a cash grab. It is so easy to call this mode a cash grab because it is the purest form of this Marvel Snap thing, where it's not pay to win, but it is pay to do it, pay to get it out of the way, right? And once you get Cassandra Nova, suddenly you're in a massively advantageous spot against everyone else. Like, that's a real thing. And that does kind of make it pay to win for a little bit, right? I wanted to talk about what I identified as the major problems in Deadpool's Diner. And there are two. The first one is exponential scaling is confusing. It's confusing and sucky, right? And it makes the first part of Deadpool's Diner feel worthless. Because you could be like halfway to the thing and you'll actually be like, 2% of the bubs, but you might be halfway to getting Cassandra Nova because the scaling goes exponential with the amount of bubs you're able to wager. That, fundamentally, is confusing. There's a bunch of charts running around that. You shouldn't need a chart to understand the game mode. You shouldn't need a bunch of math and all of that to understand, hey, this is how this game mode is meant to work, especially when it's supposed to be the fun, casual game mode where all your stuff gets refilled and you play for 1,000,000 bubs or whatever. It shouldn't have to be like that. So exponential scaling, I think, a little bit of a miss. I understand why it's in there. It feels like they started at, we want to have games for 1,000,000 cubes, and then worked backwards from there, and the easiest way to do that was exponential scaling. I get it. Don't get me wrong. I understand. But it does make it feel like you're not making any progress early. And that brings me to problem number 2, which I think is a more salient and more obvious problem. The onboarding experience for this mode sucks. It's just bad. And that is due to just the way in which they decided to introduce the stamina mechanic, how punishing the first game is. And even now that they've changed the games so that the first game you play is not incredibly punishing, one of the immediate responses I saw was, oh, well, okay, I don't care. That's such a small amount of bubs. It doesn't even matter to me now if I win the first one, right? It doesn't even matter to me now. And again, that actually ties into the problem with exponential scaling, because those bubs do scale exponentially as you go upwards, right? It does matter. But it's easy to, basically they made a mode where it's very easy to look at it and be like, what is wrong with you? Because you lose that first game and it's like, would you like to pay gold to keep playing? And it's just like the worst user experience of all time. And then they fix it by making the first game cheaper to enter, which means the rewards from the first game suck, which means you go into the second or third game and then that happens and you lose your shit and you get, it's a game mode that it's well designed for being 14 days, but the first 2 to 3 days of it suck, and that's just where we're at.
Yeah, actually, I just wanted to add on to that second point quite a bit, because if we didn't bring this up, I was gonna bring it up as well.
Sure.
Firstly, the onboarding experience, right? The UI of this mode is confusing as heck. Like there's so many little things that you need to take note of that you don't know you need to take note of until maybe 30 minutes into the game, right? Like there's different counters for current bubs and overall bubs. There's a lot of different things, and then everything's a bit too small. Honestly, it's just a bit of my gripes and stuff like that. But and also the actual learning curve of the mode is quite difficult, right? Like if I didn't have 400 people in chat telling me what to do in the first hour, I would probably be a bit more lost, because some people have tried out the mode before me, and they kind of know. But for what it's worth though, I think the mode is fun to me personally, because I like the fact that you can progress through the tables and increase the stakes. It's a bit exciting to me. I like the fact that they do this, but I feel like you said, the onboarding experience is so extremely confusing. It's so you miss one thing and you don't know why this is happening, or like you said, right? If you lose early, then it's like that arcade whereby you lose your coin after you die, and then they're just like, oh, you want to put another coin to continue shooting the guy? Yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah, it's like Time Crisis, that kind of thing. So yeah, it felt that way to me. But I got the hang of it just because I had chat to help me through it. But I think if you're doing this solo for the first time, you'd be super lost. You'd be like, what's going on? Why there 2 counters? Why can't I play now? That kind of thing. Yeah, so I guess maybe for future this is good feedback for them. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's a mode that didn't have as much time in the oven as you'd want, right? Where it's just I don't know if they really tested it or anything like that. I don't know or part of me wonders if like they tested it and they were like, over the course of 14 days, it'll even out. It won't be that bad. But it's like, you can't. Marvel Snap itself has such a good onboarding system that it's
Yes.
insanely frustrating to watch them absolutely whiff the onboarding system for a game mode. Because this is like classic Marvel Snap where it's like it's showing you its worst face first for no reason. It's just like an unforced error to me. And it, as someone who generally likes the game, it sucks to see them keep doing this thing where the worst possible interpretation of everything they do is the thing that they almost are encouraging you to like take from it, right? I don't blame people for when they lose their first game and get a pop up like it's Time Crisis being like, what the hell is this game mode actually about?
Time to put a coin in.
Yeah. Like I don't blame people for that. They probably should have thought about that. And so it's like it's just it's like I don't know why that's how you'd want to build the mode. I don't know why your onboarding process is like that, but I guess it is. So I just yapped for forever. Yeah, Lamby, do you want to talk about
Yeah.
Cassandra Nova?
Yes, please. All right, I'm gonna start by talking about Cassandra Nova, which is very interesting because I don't own Cassandra Nova, but I've experienced playing against a lot of Cassandra Nova.
He's
I'm still on.
washed. He's washed, chat.
No, I'm
Everyone
still on
comment that
that.
he's washed.
I'm still on that 10x per
Yeah, yeah,
table
yeah.
grind, and that's why I say it's not realistic because you never get the card. By the way, you need to have YOLO brain, and I think I needed to switch on my YOLO brain a little bit more. This is what I learned, but I've experienced playing against a lot of Cassandra Nova, and the pain of like losing to it. By the way, because I played a lot of Arishem. I love Arishem. By the way, I love Arishem to bits. Like Deadpool's Diner and Arishem are actually the two things I love most about the recent releases in Marvel Snap. Despite us complaining about the onboarding, I like the mode. By the way, fun fact. But like Cassandra Nova, yes. So I experienced playing against the card. Wow, this card kills Arishem so hard. It's like the Sage that kills Arishem. It's 3 mana, but it's like twice the size of Sage versus Arishem. It's like I see it at 316 to 320 like so often. It's actually crazy. Like it's just so strong versus Arishem. And even if it's not versus Arishem, it's like what 3-7, 3
Yeah,
3-8,
it's like
3-6.
Gladiator, basically.
Like it's more than 3-5. That's the point, right? 3-5 is like the goal minimum standard. This is like insane versus Arishem wins game, and versus other decks, it's bigger than the 3-5. So like this card, I feel like once you finally get it, if you YOLO and buy the buffs and stuff, yeah, sure, you get it fast. If you don't, you take it slow, and then you finally get it, you realize you really love this card. Like I love this card despite not owning it because I know that what it can do. I've seen it done to me and it hurts. It's great. It's a super strong card. Like I guess now I can throw it back to KM who actually owns the card to tell me about why it's good because I'm pretty sure we both agree it's good.
Everything you said was right. Like it's a really monster Arishem counter that is also pretty good even when you don't Arishem. She's great. I am a big fan of Cassandra Nova. I think that she's like really forced this metagame to move because right now I feel like almost every Cassandra Nova deck is going to end up favored into Arishem, whether that be because it's like Cassandra Nova Darkhawk, Cassandra Nova Ajax, whatever it is. Cassandra Nova is enough to actually make that matchup. Like, if you were already kind of close, if you were like 45% into Arishem, she will make it favored. Having her in your deck will make it favored.
Yes.
And there were a lot of decks that were close, right? There were a lot of decks that were close, and now all of those decks can be Cassandra Nova decks. She's a better counter to this card than Darkhawk is because she is easier to splash.
Yes.
And that is just a really big deal. That's really important. I really like it. You're way more able to be happy with like your 3 energy card getting Shang-Chi than your 5 energy card getting Shang-Chi. That represents like your up energy effectively on that. Like there's so much that makes her good, but fundamentally she's the first thing that I've seen since she came out where the metagame is actually moving away from Arishem. Shout out to Cassandra Nova.
Yeah, well, just want to add one last thing when it comes to Cassandra Nova that you mentioned about Darkhawk. Like Darkhawk is obviously bigger, like no one's gonna deny that. But this card is 2 mana cheaper, and that is like the world. That's like literally everything. You fit it so nicely into everything, right? Like you can't. There isn't really like a 5+1 Darkhawk plus tech card thing. But Cassandra Nova is like you can Cassandra Nova plus tech card, Cassandra Nova plus something else. Like it just fits so nicely. Even if it's like half the size of the Darkhawk, it does like the same work, right? Because Darkhawk wins an Arishem deck by too much points, you know. It's like you don't need 30 something to win a Arishem deck. You need like 18 and then something else to play alongside it on the same turn, and you still win. So Cassandra Nova does that. Yes.
So how sad is Arishem right now? It's been able to adapt to everything so far, and I know you've been playing a lot of Arishem. So where are you at on this? How do you think it is able to adapt? Do you think it's actually like maybe Dedge? Or do you, because especially because this card, I know people are really down on the diner right now. I do think that if you are someone who's watching this, you're plugged in enough to know who we are, and you care enough to play the game enough, you're probably going to get Cassandra Nova. And
Yeah.
that can't be good news for Arishem.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so firstly, I want to say that, like, firstly, okay, so I play a lot of Arishem, so I can honestly tell you that the Cassandra Nova introduction has actually severely hampered my win rate, like, without a doubt. Like, I've played so much Arishem in the diner along with my super slow strategy, right? The fact that people are using Cassandra Nova against me already, right? I can tell that, like, it's really painful. Like, it hurts Arishem win rate so much because, like I said in the previous topic, right? It's not like you need to worry only about a 5-cost Dark Hawk. You need to worry about the other thing that's smaller than Dark Hawk, but you still lose to, you know? Like, it just beats you by a bit, but you lose to it, and it costs 3, you know? So Arishem is really, really in a sad spot right now, simply because, like, the Cassandra Nova is just like, it can be in every deck, and it, like, kind of just farms your location that you play it in versus Arishem. Like, you can, I mean, I'm personally okay still playing against, like, Cassandra Nova, because, like, the random cards in your deck sometimes squeak out wins here and then. I'm relatively good at doing that. But, like, at the core of it, you just know at the back of your mind there is a Hawk, there is a Cassandra Nova. And if your random cards don't give you 20 points, then you still die. So, like it's tough. Like, as much as I tell you that I can know what to do, it's not easy to do. You know, it's actually not. So Arishem is like, I honestly feel like, this is just my personal perspective, but, like, with all these good, like, cards you can play against Arishem right now, it's severely under control. It's, like, super under control. And I don't know if Arishem can fight its way out of a 3 mana 20 power thing. Like, I don't
Yeah.
think it can.
I
I
mean,
actually
it'll have
don't
to be
think it
like a
can, man.
Shadow King or like a Shang-Chi Grandmaster type deal, right? Where it's
Yeah,
just like
good luck
very.
trying to draw that in your
Oh
24
no, I
card deck
know. Like
consistently,
it's
right?
like it's
Yeah.
it's hard, right?
Yeah.
My instinct is that I'm still a little bit upset at the play patterns of Arishem,
Mm.
where I'd still like to deal with things like Doc Ock and Leech, who are just not fun to have around at all ever, and are being used to great effect in RSM, even with Cassandra Nova stuff in there, because they simplify the game so much. They make it so easy to just be like, win one lane, win another lane, ha 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 ha.
Yeah.
Doesn't even matter how much power you have. I have 5 tech cards or whatever, right? And
Mhm.
so my instinct is that I would still want to hit those.
Okay.
That is sort of where my head is at, where it's like, I'm not sure how meaningfully that negatively impacts Arishem, but I am sure that I want to do it anyway, even if it doesn't meaningfully negatively impact Arishem, because I think that would actually be the dream scenario, is like Arishem ends up the same amount of good, but like 50% less annoying. That would be the
Mm.
dream. That would be amazing. With Cassandra Nova in the format, I think that like this is a really pivotal moment for Arishem. I'm interested to see what happens. So, naturally, everyone just slapped this into Thena decks. That's what happens when Cassandra Nova comes out. We're like, what is the deck that was already good? We put Cassandra Nova in that, and suddenly we're favored into Arishem, which gives us as by my count, 4 or 5 different Thena decks in the metagame right now.
Might
There
even be 6.
is Thena with Gwenpool, Mockingbird, and Sasquatch. There is the Thena deck with Rocks and Darkhawk.
Dark Claw.
There is the Thena deck with Ravona, Iron Man, Mystique, Darkhawk. There is the Thena deck with Gwenpool move stuff. And is that it? Or is there yet another Thena deck that I'm actually blanking on right now?
There's even a clock one,
Oh,
by the
the
way. I played
Ajax
against
one,
Clock
right?
plus
The
Tina.
clogged, the Ajax one, right? Okay, so there are 5 Thena decks. They're all kind of the same thing, but like they
Yeah.
differ in certain specific aspects. But it's really just about swapping that end game out, and the
Yes.
real thing that what's happening here is like the Thena deck is just choosing what their end game is, and the early game is like this very consistent like Cassandra Nova, Jeff, Thena, Angela, Kitty Pride. That's the early game, and then you just figure out
Yeah.
what your end game is. Maybe your end game needs Hope Summers, maybe your end game needs Ravona, maybe it doesn't, but that's pretty much what you're really quibbling over there. And you just sort of insert these packages into it until you end up with a deck. That's my read on Thena right now. Where are you at with it?
Yeah, no, I agree because like this whole Tina Dex thing, or we call it the Tina package, or whatever you want to call
Mm.
it, it's just like the early game package. It's just that de facto good early game package. Like we talk about all these different like Tina decks, we talk about their end games. But one thing we don't really mention because we don't really have to is that
Yep.
all the early games are the same, right? It's because the
Yes.
Tina early game is the best early game that's like it just scales, right? It's like you got the Tina deck. When we call it a Tina deck, it's basically the early scaling package is the same. How you want to end it is really up to you, right? You want to end it with Clock, you want to end it with Dark Hawk. It's pretty much how you want to end it, but how you start it, like the good way to start it is with Tina, because Tina is just a very strong card right now. And like I honestly think just throwing Cassandra Nova into this deck, like the ones that I think hurt the Arisham decks the most and that I've experienced playing against is the one that just literally has both Dark Hawk and Tina. Sorry, Dark Hawk and what's that called? And Cassandra Nova in the deck as well. Like two powerhouses and then an early scaling package. There's no amount of random generation that really beats that amount of points, right? And there's also the inevitability of that, like the Dark Hawk will just solo you when they draw it, and like it's just a lot of inevitability with this build. So I feel like the one that's given me the most trouble is not necessarily rocks per se, but just having a Dark Hawk and Cassandra Nova in your Tina deck. Like even if you have no like rock generators, no rocks, like no whatever, it's just troublesome enough. And I guess in certain matchups you can say that the Dark Hawk is useless because it's not an Arisham matchup. But like more than 50% of your matchups, at least in the diner, are like some Arisham matchup, right? So I think it's very fine to just throw Dark Hawk in your good cards deck and be like, okay, sure, I will eventually hit like multiple Arisham decks and it will be useful, you know. So and then like we said earlier, Cassandra Nova is just generically a good card even if you don't hit Arisham. So yeah, I think the Tina decks are here to stay. It's just an early game package that's very strong. If Arisham ever gets phased out, there's no way the Tina decks phase out because like it's still the strong early game package. You just change the end game, right? Cut the Dark Hawk, maybe somehow cut the Cassandra if there's really no Arisham, you know, that kind of thing. But the Tina package, the early game, it's here to stay. Like I think it's gonna be here to stay for a while.
So let's talk about the one deck that I feel legitimately is good into the Thena package, and that's Bounce. And there are multiple forms of Bounce right now. I'm playing like a fairly mid-rangey type of Bounce with Cassandra Nova and White Widow and Ajax and Shang-Chi. But you could also be playing Bounce with like Black Swan, right? You could be Black Swan Hitmonkey Bounce. And the thought process there is basically you want to be a deck that just does points better than the Thena deck. The Thena deck does points pretty well, but it also does them
Yes.
very predictably. And a bounce deck can explode with more points and also be less predictable. And I think that's just a really, really good spot for a lot of decks to be in right now. So if you're looking for, like, I want something that is good into RSM and into Thena, Cassandra Nova Bounce is where my head is at right now. And that
Mm.
is sort of what I'm, like, really looking hard at for this. So I think that, like, there is some potential. This is when I talked about Cassandra Nova, like, actually the metagame might start moving because there are ways to beat Thena. Like, there are real things that you can do to beat that deck. It's far from unbeatable. It's a generic good cards mid-range deck, which typically loses when decks can just outpoint it and not be interacted with.
Yeah, 100% agree. Like throughout the history of like mid-range versus bounce, right? Bounce is always the one that outputs more points than the
Mm.
general mid-range deck, right? Like in this case, as much as we did mention earlier that Dina is like consistent and the strongest early game package in general, bounce has more stuff. Like there's so many ways to do the bounce thing, right? Like it just plays more points in different places, like better than the Dina deck. That's one thing it's going for it. And also I feel like when it comes to finishers, because you mentioned like Monkey, right? There's actually multiple right now, right? That you can just slot in depending on what you want to face. Like there's Monkey, there's even Sage, Cassandra Nova. They're all good trees that you can fit in here and there, you know. So I feel like it's a lot of flexibility as well. I don't think you can play all of them in the same deck, it's a bit too tight, but like I guess you do definitely want to do Cassandra Nova right now because like half your matchups will be Arisham, you know, so you just got a natural like bigger Sage and bigger Monkey in your deck because it also costs 3. So yeah, I think Bounce is like well positioned because there are people trying to counter Arisham. Like there are enough people playing Arisham that there are enough people trying to counter Arisham. So you can play a deck that beats the counter very reliably. That doesn't also automatically fall flat versus Arisham, right? Because you have
Exactly.
Cassandra Nova. So like it's well positioned. I think it's like a bit more inconsistent of a deck generally because bounce is like a moving parts deck, right? Like, you got a lot of stuff going on. It's a bit harder to get right, like on curve as well as Tina. Tina's just the best curve deck, but bounce does have more points than Tina decks. So I feel like this is definitely a contender.
How good do you think Copycat is, especially in relation to Nocturne? Because that's like
Yeah.
one question that I've been really going back and forth on. My bounce deck, right? It plays a Viper because I like being able to have this like clog sub theme with White Widow and
Viper tech,
Hood
love
and
it.
Viper, right? I'm wondering honestly if like I were to look back on this, would I be stupid for not just playing Copycat? Is that just like
Not
a that much of a better card
really.
or Nocturne?
Okay, firstly, I just want to say that the Viper tag in bounce is amazing. I love it. Like I keep talking
Mm-hmm.
about Viper tag like randomly in so many decks, right? Like the bounce one makes so much sense because you have a random hood that like it's actually a good thing to give them, right? We talk about Viper being like give them the lowest card, but like the bounce naturally runs the hood, which is very good to give to them, you know. So I think the Viper tag there is insane. I like it very well. Okay, so this one is very interesting because copycat nocturne. Like now we know that the de facto like good baseline for 3 cost cards is 3/5, correct? So this question has came out on my stream so often. Like it's almost as much as like last year this time when people asked me replacement for Silk. Like they asked me this question as much as that one, which is like nocturne or copycat. So here's the funny thing. Like you only ever ask this question if you are having like you are thinking if copycat is good enough, right? You're not thinking if copycat is bad, because if you think it's bad, you wouldn't even ask this question. So you are thinking if it's good enough and better than nocturne. But the funny thing is I actually cannot give you the answer
Yeah.
because I feel like both do very, very separate different things. I feel like I wanted this topic here because I kind of want you guys' opinion as well, because they are both amazing 3/5s. Fun fact, if you haven't tried out copycat, she's actually super amazing.
She's very good.
Like even if she whiffs, she's a 3/5, but she doesn't whiff as often as you think. Like she hits a lot of good things in the game right now. Like I played for like a few hours on stream, and like the number of times where I didn't like the thing she copied was like so little. The amount of times that I loved it was a lot. The amount of times I didn't care was also a lot, but like exactly I didn't care. It's 3/5, right?
Yeah.
So like I really want I don't think I want to conclude with a definitive answer. I kind of just want to know what you guys think. Do you think like she's better than Nocturne now? Like can you even say she's better? Like the two different scope spectrums, right? Or do you think like she's like definitely not as good? Like I just want to know what you guys think, because I feel like both are super strong cards, and I personally cannot decide which I think is better, by the way.
So by the time these videos come out, Conquerors will have already happened, most likely. We're recording this the night before Conquerors. I really should be sleeping.
You should.
So I just wanted to talk a little bit about like bankroll management. I'm gonna run you through the format as I understand it.
Mm,
We're each gonna start with 12 million bubs. We are
mm.
allowed to rebuy in at the maximum at one point during this. At one point, we may rebuy at the maximum. At
Okay.
any point, we may rebuy at the minimum. But we can't.
Mm,
But we have to be out of bubs in order for that to happen. So basically, the higher up you get early, the more impactful your rebuys are. That's the thing
correct.
that like it stuck out to me. But at the same point, the winner is whoever after 2 hours has the biggest stack. Period. So whoever has the
Yes.
biggest stack is just going to win. So the goal then would be get to the end game as fast as possible and just be risky until you have a big stack, right? And then when you get to the end game, if you like lose a flip or whatever, you rebuy at the max and then you're able to go. That's sort of where my head is at.
Yeah, I do understand a bit of the format because I looked at it a bit myself as well, right? I honestly think that okay, firstly, this format honestly requires a bit of YOLO, no, not a bit, actually a lot of YOLO brain. Like
Okay.
you need to have a strategy, but you like you said, you need to get to the end quickly, right? So your rebuys actually matter, right? So this is
Yes.
gonna be quite exciting to see.
Like my
But
thought,
I do,
like if we're
yeah.
starting at 12, is it like play cautious early? Once you get to 15, start risking it? Like I'm not really sure.
Honestly, I think you have to. I personally think you have to go big early as well. You
Okay.
need to really get to the end point where your rebuys matter, right? Like if you reach a point and you bust out, but like you are busting out at a level where your rebuys are big, right? That's what I'm understanding here. Then your
Yeah.
rebuys will be worth something, correct? Like the thing is like not everybody will be at the same stack size as you, correct? Like at a given point in time. So there's a chance that when you rebuy, you actually rebuy more than the next guy you play with completely. Like you have a bigger stack
Yes.
than them 100%, right? But you wouldn't know, right? You wouldn't know whether you queue into the guy that has like less of a stack than you or not. So, but like I do think that's the strategy. You want to go to the end with like ASAP. So the problem with this is that the whole mode reeks of you need to get a bit lucky. Like honestly, like you need to get
Yeah.
a bit lucky with your matchups. You need to like you cannot lose certain pivotal moments, right? If you lose too early, you end up having to like crawl back. You know, everyone
Yeah.
like if you lose a double up to somebody, they double up and then they have a chance to double up double again, which is like 4 times more than you and something like that already, right? So like if you let someone 4 times like like win you for all your bubs early, and then they win the next guy for all their bubs early, like the
It's
guy's
yeah.
just gonna be like so far ahead. So
Yeah.
you actually similarly cannot really lose certain very pivotal games. And the funny thing is you don't even know when this pivotal game is because you don't know who you're gonna kill into, right? At any point in time. So like but I mean, it's a fun mode. I'm gonna enjoy watching it. I hope you enjoy playing it, and I know you can definitely do well in this in terms of skill. But like at the end of the day, like if things don't go your favor in your way, like I don't think you have much control over like
Yeah,
certain things. You know, like
things happen.
it's a
I
bit
think
difficult.
I'm just gonna go out there, do my best, and try to reward all the people who bet on me. I'm just gonna do my best, and hopefully that's
Yeah,
enough.
I'm just very excited for you to compete. Like you haven't competed in so
It's been
long.
a it's been a
I just
while. I haven't competed since
yeah,
I think the
man.
first Conquerors. Like
Yeah,
I
dude.
haven't
Like a
done
year.
anything like that since the first
Yeah.
Conquerors. This is gonna be like my first competitive event in a very long time.
Yeah, dude.
All
But
right.
I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like the one funny thing I wanted to add is that I was looking at the player list and
Mm.
like I identified the Marvel Snap content creators, right? Like I think would do well. Yourself, Dexter, Dara, Jeff. I think you guys are all phenomenal. You guys would do really good. Like you guys play the game a lot as well. But the funny thing is I saw this guy's toast and then like in my head I was just like, this guy's actually my idol, by the way. And I just had this thought, but if it was peak this guy's toast who was competing in Hearthstone playing this, I would put all my money on that guy, man. Like if it was actual peak this guy's toast that played a lot of Hearthstone, he's the nuts. Like he's just a genius. So that's just a funny thought, but he doesn't really play, so maybe you guys can farm him. I don't know, man.
We'll
But
see.
that's what I think.
And on that note, it's time to end. Thank you so much for everyone who made it through this video. I've been KMBest. He has been Lambie Series, and we will see you in the next one. Lambie, take us out of here.
All right, guys. Wish KM all the best. KM best, all the
It's
best.
probably
Let's go.
already
And
happened by the time you're watching this.
just wish him, but regardless, right? The last time I filmed the video before Conquerors, I won Conquerors, by the way. Remember that. Remember that. So this could be a good luck charm. But anyway, thank you guys for being here. Like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one on KM's channel.